Welcome! In this video, I'll be grading the NHL trade deadline day, mostly for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'll touch on a few other teams before this few minutes is out. This will be a quickie, folks, but before we move on, just give me a thumbs up and smash the subscribe button if you happen to be new to the channel. Now, starting with the Nick Waugh trade to the Colorado Avalanche, them getting back a first rounder in 2027 and a fifth in 2026. Both of those are conditional. 2027 is top 10 protected. That turns into an unprotected 2028. And then the conditional fifth, I think, turns into a fourth if they get past a certain point in the playoffs. Maybe it's the finals. Don't quote me on that, though. Good trade. I'll be sad to see the guy go. He was effective with the Maple Leafs. Maybe not as offensive as we all wanted, but he will be a solid third or even fourth, but I think a third line center, especially a right-handed one who's good at faceoffs, big body for the Colorado Avalanche. Now, next up, the Bobby McMann trade to the Seattle Kraken. I didn't see that coming at all, by the way. I don't think any insiders mentioned this one. And they get a second round pick in 2027, not 2026, 2027, and a fourth round pick in 2026. None of these conditional. It's fine. It's not bad. I think we wanted a bit more. I think I wanted all of the picks to be in 2026, especially because they need picks now. A lot of these aren't for a year to a year plus from now. Maybe I was hoping for like 2 seconds or a second and a third, and this came through at the last minute. I know overall this seemed to be more of a buyer's market than a seller's market, so you got to take that into consideration before you blame Brad Treveling too much for what has occurred here. But I'm fine with this, I guess, with Bobby McMann. I mean, who knows? Maybe they even resign him next season, but I kind of doubt that because I don't think they want to spend more than around $3.5 million or under $4 million, let's say, on this guy for a max, like, 3-year term. I mean, he is, 29, 30 years old? I don't know how much longer he's going to be one of the fastest guys in the league. 20-goal scorer who happens to disappear for certain stretches. Never really proven much in the playoffs yet, but he did have a bit of a breakout year. So we'll see what happens with him in Seattle. Good luck to him. Like the player, like the guy. Life goes on. Now, let's talk about I don't want to call it the big trade, right? But the worst trade. That's the word I was looking for. Scott Laughton goes to the Los Angeles Kings, which is a big question mark for me in a lot of senses, just on the Kings part of it, because they traded Perry to Tampa Bay Lightning, and they go out and they acquire Scott Laughton. Why not keep both guys if you're not too far out of the playoff spot and you're trying to make it in? I don't get that. Those two players, too, seem like they might be good on the same line, or at least on the same team, in the same bottom six. So this is confusing on the LA part of it. Toronto's part of it is greatly underwhelming. All they get is back is a conditional third round pick if they make it into the playoffs. I think that turns this season. I think that turns into a second, and I want to say it's for 2026, but don't quote me on that. I'm looking at the Sportsnet page right now. Yikes, right? Because they paid a first rounder and a prospect for Laughton. I'm missing like a fourth maybe in there. This is bad. This is bad. I mean, last year's trades for Carlo especially were pretty poor. Brad got fleeced. We all know it. We all like the players per se, but not what they paid. I mean, no one's paying anything like that these days, and I know it's more of a seller's or a buyer's market, this year than the last couple, but man, gotta say I do not have too much trust in Brad Treveling right now. He has done some good things here and there, maybe like signing Nyes to a decent contract, Tavares, etc., but I think he's got more of a failing grade than a passing one here. I'm going to give their grade for these trades right now, let's say a C-. I think that's fair. You can argue me maybe even lower or even a tiny bit higher down below in the comment section. I would love to hear what you think about this. I don't get it. I really believe they got to fire Brad Trickling, right? And they got to get rid of the coach, too. They really misused Scott Lawton. He should have been playing up on that second line, if not a winger, even as a centerman, bump JT out to the wing and have Lawton play center on that second line, or at least start him out on the third, on the wing with Watt. Just playing the guy only, what was he, like 11 minutes a night? It's just a sin. It's a horrible sin, and I know that's more on the coach than it is the GM, obviously, but that's why Berube's got to go. Like the guy, the character, the person, all of that, they definitely need a new voice in there. I don't know if it makes any sense to just get rid of him right away and just put Lalonde in there. I guess I would be fine with that, but they definitely need a new coach who's not Lalonde to step in for next season. And I think that's obvious, but they got to get rid of Brad Trickling. He's got to go. He hasn't really had much of a passing grade, even in Calgary, never mind in Toronto. So it's time for some new eyes here, and I would be happy if they gave a promotion, for example, to Prindom, or went out and hired like Kevin Adams, for instance. And they definitely need a new president of hockey ops. This can't go on like this without one. It doesn't make sense. And they got to overhaul, I think, their scouting staff. They've been one of the worst drafting teams for years now. And I know there's been some different regimes mixed in there, Dubas, Burke, and so on and so forth. But how is it this team, with making the most money in the league, has one of the poorest drafting and scouting out there? It's incredible. So they need to pour some money into that. They need to go poach some guys, some other teams. Do what you gotta do, Maple Leafs, to fix that problem. And it's time to clean house. The chances of them coming back and contending for next season, because if they're not contending, what's the difference of just squeaking into the playoffs and be a middling team for the next, 4 or so years, until Matthews, probably a year after next, is going to say, bye-bye, this is obviously not going to work. Right? And then Nylander, I know he's signed an 8-year deal, but unless they draft first or second overall, and they get really lucky with the draft lottery, I don't see them contending next year. The Islanders managed to get Schaefer, and that rebounded their year really fast. They're already back in the playoffs. By the way, nice segue, good pickup for Braden Shen. Seems like he'll fit in really well on that club. They gave up a first this season and a third as well as Drouin and Gildloff, excuse me. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know the player too much. But I thought that was a nice little piece of work by the Islanders. He'll fit right into the system there. Really looking forward to seeing how they're doing in the East, especially with Flora out of it. It seems to be, Tampa and Carolina. But, Tampa didn't do much. They went out and got Corey Perry, but okay. And that was it, especially when it's wide open with the Panthers out. And then Carolina only picked up Nicolas Deslauriers for a bag full of pucks, a conditional 7th, right? I mean, nice that they got him, because they got a lot of small players and it's the playoffs, but that's not going to do it. Hopefully Bussi works out for them as the goaltender. Really disappointed in that. Obviously, the big winner here is the Colorado Avalanche picking up Kadri at the very last minute. They gave up the bank, really, but they seem to be the clear favorites right now, right? I mean, the Oilers did some things depth-wise that should help, but I just don't know if anything's going to stop that Avalanche, literally and metaphorically, on the rest of the West right now. Another team that seemed dormant was the Dallas Stars. Really weird that they didn't do too much besides Michael Bunting. Okay. And then, LA moving sort of sideways. Same with Ottawa. I know that, they're both trying to squeak into the playoffs, but Detroit picking up Justin Falk, okay. And then Buffalo worked around the edges. You can't blame them too much for doing that with Tanner Pearson, whatever. But Logan Stanley and Luke Shen, okay. Let's see what happens. Anyways, that's it. That's all. It's already longer than I wanted to do. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much. And please, don't forget to be excellent to each other.